So I'm gonna talk about the power of a story, and um, the purpose of the talk is definitely just to share, inspire, empower, pick whatever you can from this. And so this talk is especially for anyone who is in tech, has transitioned careers into tech, or is transitioning out, whatever. So it's a transition story. And for me, it began with someone else's story where I saw fragments of myself, and I was inspired into action. And so I'm just going to take you through my story, but through my story, provide some insights in the art of storytelling. And so my name is Naijeria Toweett. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. And I currently consider myself as someone who helps nonprofits design, develop affordable, efficient, and scalable tech solutions. I'm a creator, I'm a builder, and I'm a problem solver. I quit my job at 45 and transitioned into tech. That was like 4 years ago. And I'm a wife and a mother of three. So, just in the chat, think about the last TV show you really enjoyed, whether it was a book or a movie or a podcast, and write in the chat why you think it was a good story. Yes, we all love happy endings, don't we? Yes. Unexpected turn of events, characters I can relate to, relatable characters, the adventure, the discovery, interesting character dynamics, humor, a lot of the setup and really paid off. Mm-hmm. Human race reveals itself. Nice. Showing compassion while talking about difficult issues. Great, great. So keep them coming. I'll continue. So my story. We'll start off with the character. So, like I said, mother of three, teenagers, soon to be two adults in the house, wife, living my life. I was working as a digital media specialist, and that entailed just working on online communities. I joined this company. I'm sure if you went to my LinkedIn, you'll get it, but for purposes of this story, we'll keep it anonymous. I joined this company and had worked for 3 years as a social media manager, and then I really loved it because it involved me being on social media 24/7. Like I was paid to be on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and just create content on a very interesting subject, love, sex, and relationships, and that was really fun. The platform targeted young people with very interesting content, and we had campaigns, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much so that 3 years into that role, because I was really good at what I was doing, um, and the community had grown. When I joined, the Facebook community was like 50,000. And by the time I was getting to my 3-year stint, I had built a community 1.1 million Facebook like followers. And I felt like I needed a bigger challenge. Of course, the management saw that I was really doing a good job, and my then manager, we're just a team of two, wanted to go and pursue her PhD. And so she had offered her resignation. And there I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get a new boss and this dynamic of this, we were the fantastic duo. She was a great content creator. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a new manager. And lo and behold, the head of department had seen my efforts and how hard I was working, offered me the position to take up that position as the coordinator for the team, which I said yes. And this was the team then. We had grown from a team of 2 to 7, and we were expanding into another country. So the organization had set up in Kenya initially and was expanding into Nigeria. So now I was in charge of this team. So I was really excited about the move into a senior position. And of course, it meant more money and more travel, very interesting things. Along with that, other things that were happening is that my kids had grown. Initially, we lived in a 2-bedroom flat. Kids were growing, so we needed to move to a bigger space. So I was like, yeah, we can afford to move to a bigger house. So we moved to like a 4-bedroom house. One of the rooms became my office. I was really excited at what that was all like, a bigger space. I had my home office. And then more work, of course. And because I had moved to manage a team, there were more responsibilities. I had to be part of meetings to decide the direction of the organization. So what else happened? One of the projects that I got into was a web series, which was part of still creating content for our audience. That was really exciting. And the trailer is actually online. Travel to different countries to represent the organization, talk about the wonderful work that we were doing. A couple of months into my second year, we launched Nigeria, the Nigerian chapter. So I had to travel to Nigeria, and we had this big launch ceremony, and they got me wearing a dress, which I rarely do. And then in the regional office, which was in the Netherlands, things had changed. So they had to get an African regional manager to manage the 2 teams in Kenya and Nigeria. Initially, they picked a colleague, and she was wonderful. We got to travel together. We got to map out what we thought the direction of the organization would be. But soon it became evident that my vision and my direction was different from the organization's. We had the bigger team that was developing the strategy, developing the website, developing, the tech solutions, all based in the Netherlands. And we were just implementing. So everything came from the top down. I found this very frustrating because having to build a platform from 50,000 to 1.1 million, I understood my audience, I understood my local context. So I felt it was important for our organization to understand that it's people within the country that can propose solutions and the direction of the organization. It was at this point that we parted ways. I felt solutions should be built in country. Their funding and strategy was to build in the Netherlands and then, deliver it to the local teams. So at this point, we disagreed. I resigned after 6 years and 2 months in the organization. Actually resigned 7 days before my 45th birthday. And by the time I was resigning, I was very clear I wanted to go into tech and build. So that presented my first conflict. That made me make the decision to leave, disagreeing with the organization in terms of direction. Usually with conflicts, there's the external conflict, which we've seen here, and then we have the internal conflict. So it's fine. I've made the decision. I want to learn how to build tech. So I started looking for I believe it started way earlier than this. I think I have the knack of seeing things, of feeling out of place, and then trying to work out what would be my next move. So by the time I was resigning, I'd already made contacts, gone online, did my research. I found out about Lesbians Through Tech, who had a scholarship for anyone who was transitioning to tech or going to a boot camp. I applied for the scholarship. I got in. So even when I was quitting, I knew there was something coming, but I didn't have the timelines. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I quit. That was November. The whole of November and December, I went online and I created a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds for my ticket and my airfare. By the time we had decided, there were two options: either to go to a boot camp in Colorado or a boot camp in Barcelona. Trump was president, so US was out for me. I was like, that was too much a risk for me trying to apply for the visa and grants. But plus Barcelona was warmer. So Barcelona was the better option. So I had an opportunity to go to Barcelona, called a boot camp in January. I didn't know how I was gonna get there. My GoFundMe campaign had raised about $600, and that was enough for my airfare, return airfare. Bear in mind, this is 2019 December. Got my airfare. I rallied some friends, and people gave me loans, and they were like, you know what, just go get there, and everything will sort itself out once you're done. January 7th, I flew out of Nairobi, went to Barcelona, and it had been sunny the whole week. From the 1st to the 7th, it was sunny. The day I land in Barcelona and I get off the plane, it started raining cats and dogs. And I was like, I had to take trains to get to the center of the city. And when I finally got to the last stop, and I just knew it was like a stretch that I had to walk to get to the school. And I was soaked. I was dragging my suitcase, and I was laughing and crying at the same time. And the beauty was, because I was being rained on, no one could know that I was crying. And the tears were rolling down my cheeks, and all the rain. And then I walk into the building, and people are in class because it's around 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's like this woman dragging 2 bags, soaking wet, entering from the lifts, and the admin person just looked at me. It's like, you must be Nigeria. I'm like, yes. And that was like a classic entry into school and into Barcelona. Fast forward, that was January. Fast forward 6 weeks in, beginning of March, guess what happens? COVID hits. And Barcelona is smack in the middle of the COVID pandemic because of all these people who are coming from holiday in other parts of Europe. I think it was Italy. I can't remember which country had the biggest, started with the whole pandemic. And 2 weeks in, they announced that no more going to class because they're reducing the number of people being together in public spaces. And I'm sitting there and I didn't know what was going to happen. I wake up one morning, I go to look for food in the supermarket. And the first aisle I walk in is the toilet paper aisle, and that was all empty. And I'm like, wait, people are sick. Why are people buying toilet paper? Anyway, it didn't click in my head. So I went, got my food. And I kept thinking, if they're locking down the countries, how am I going to get out? So I spoke to one of the lecturers that was like, if you can't get out, just get out, because we don't know how long this thing is going to take. So I started looking for my ticket. It took me 3 days to get a flight out of Barcelona. This was, I think it was around the 15th of March. And I get a flight early in the morning. It was a Saturday morning. I leave for the airport. It was a connecting flight through Qatar. I leave. And by the time I land in Qatar, which is like maybe 4 hours after I left, I opened my WhatsApp on the air Wi-Fi, on the airport Wi-Fi, and I'm just seeing messages asking me, "Did you get out? Did you get out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm actually in Qatar." And then like the airport was locked down at 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 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I left at 8 in the morning. So there was lockdown, no flights out. I'm like, okay, I had a layover, so I traveled. I stayed there, traveled. I was getting to Nairobi Sunday morning. I'm tired because it's been a dramatic week with not being in school and trying to get a flight out. I come in, shower, and I black out. And when I wake up at 5 o'clock that evening, our president had announced a lockdown, so no flights were leaving. So it was just like by flukes that I actually got out. Anyway, so what happens after that is I graduated, I finished, and one of the things that I went on to do is I was too scared to look for jobs as a developer. So I comfortably went back to things that I knew. I got a job again in digital media marketing, but 6 months in, I quit. I was like, no, this is not why I went to Barcelona. This is not why I almost got stuck in Barcelona for God knows how long. So I quit. We were in the middle of COVID, so people were still working remotely. And I just started building my portfolio online. Oh yeah, I forgot to click on this. So this is just about my endurance and yeah, loving how to running and stuff. And this just keeps me going. Should have weaved it in nicely into the story, but I'm sorry for that. Anyway, resolution. So what happened? I quit, got built my portfolio. Someone had hunted me based on the things that I was doing on LinkedIn, just sharing how I'm learning online, sharing what portfolio I'm building. And I got headhunted by an organization in the US, was offered a freelance position. And lo and behold, 3 months after that position, my former employer who I had quit reached out to me saying, we have a front-end developer position available. You want to join us, or shall we advertise and get somebody else? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm joining. And so I joined them. So I went back to the job that I had quit 6 months later, and it was a wonderful, warm welcome. So 6 months into that, I was headhunted by my current organization, and I've been there for the last 2.5 years. I've gotten promoted 3 times in this organization, and yeah, I'm not complaining. They're paying me well. They took me to school. I've done a product management course. So in addition to being a developer, and all of this was because I think for me, no worries, Manu. I'm not afraid to share and learn in public. I'm not afraid to say, you know what, I failed, but I'll try again. And so if I go back to my story, by telling my story, every time I tell my story in any space, I've inspired other people to move. I've gone back to my bootcamp more than 5 times just talking about my journey. And people always sign up to do the bootcamp based on my story. People reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. They're like, oh, tell us, you transitioned. How did that go? And I'm always open to doing that. And one thing that also came out of me being confident to share my story last year in October, I spoke at my first tech conference. That's how I found out about this community. I was at Friendly Albi, and then after that, I was at the Rails conference in Amsterdam. And this is because I was not afraid to talk about my failure, my struggles, and my journey. Yeah, I'm sorry we're out of time, but I think to wrap it up, for me, these are the elements of a good story. Who you are, what are the things you've gone through, what are the conflicts and hurdles you've gone through, and how have you overcome them, and what are the lessons that you've learned. I think that's very important. And I'll share the slides. So this just summarizes the elements of a good story based on Snow White, which many of you must be familiar with. Bottom line, be authentic. We all have to dare to be ourselves, however frightening, strange that self might prove to be. And to Tinder means the story is over. Thank you very much.